at the brewery in Orange County, California. I'm with Patrick, the owner. I'm with Kelly from Boulder. You all know Kelly. We know Al, the beverage director at Pizzeria Basta. These guys have flown all the way out here from Boulder to join us. And Patrick is going to give us a kind of a tour because we have a challenge in place in front of Patrick, and that is to create a beer to match up with a pizza that we're going to create. What is it that you do here?
We make Belgian style and experimental beers. We've been open for about 3 years.
Like this?
Yeah, so we're still kind of learning new things about ourselves every day. Do a lot of barrel aging. Have a lot of fun here. It's a very young, energetic company.
So Kelly and Al, you guys have flown all the way out. What is it about this place that draws you here?
Oh man, so much. It's super exciting to be here.
We've been waiting to come here for a while.
Absolutely, and they're just such interesting beers, and there's so much going on with them, and at the same time it makes it pretty accessible for food pairing in general.
Right. So where does it all begin?
Well, we're going to start out in the mill room. That's sort of where our process begins. We have keep all the spices in the room, keep all the hops in these fridges, but all the grain basically is poured into this contraption. Basically, there's 2 rollers on it that crushes that grain, so it's pretty coarse.
This is like barley malt?
Yep, so it's barley.
What's the tradition of making beers with spices and herbs?
Well, before hops were used in beer, gruit was beer. So basically, it's using things like rosemary and stinging nettle and all these crazy spices to create bitterness, create that balance, and then a whole range of flavors. And some of them had some medicinal characteristics.
So it's just kind of a running, almost slang that pizza and beer goes so well together, and this really is defining why it goes so well together. This is the same ingredients in our kitchen.
It starts here with malts and spices, and you create these little flavor packets, basically, that go into the beer.
Definitely mix around different types of malts. So we're milling them all here, and then we're combining them all in the mash tun. When the grain gets milled, it gets transferred over to this mash tun. Essentially, we are mixing hot water with that grain to activate enzymes, basically converting starches into sugars.
The enzymes are activated,
and
then they convert starches into sugars. Sounds a lot like bread making.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we get a lower temperature, we get a more fermentable mash, and then if we go at a higher temperature, we get more long-chain sugars and create a bigger, maltier beer that way.
The wort is the liquid. That's like the tea that you've made or the soup that you've made from this boiling. And so what happens to the wort then? What's the next stage after you've derived all the flavor out of all those grains? Where does it go from there?
Then it goes over to the boil kettle. When we're transferring all that sweet wort, we're going into this vessel.
So it's going from there, going from this kettle into this kettle where it's going to get boiled into the next stage. Where does this flavor start to happen?
Well, the flavors start to happen in the malt that we choose and how long we boil it. If we boil it for a longer amount of time, it's going to develop some caramelization, darkening. Mash tun, we like to keep fermentables in there, so if we add yams or something like that, we add it, or potatoes, or all the malt would add in that process. And then something like a spice, we want to add either in the kettle or in the whirlpool, because the shorter that's boiled, the more flavor you're going to get in the beer. So when you're boiling something, it's like, if you're making a soup, if you add all the spices at the beginning, all those aromatics might boil off by the time you...
I would have to think that fresh is coming in at the end,
Yeah.
Because you want the fresh herbs and more of the dry spices are going in at the beginning.
Exactly.
When you used to think of it in a much broader sense, where a beer could have a roundness or a crispness, these opposing type of characteristics. And now I'm starting to maybe actually look at it from like a layering of flavors that you could actually apply to food and cooking.
Really cool. So just to kind of wrap up sort of the cycle, so where it goes from there to here where it's kind of finished off, is this where the beer kind of has its final stages in these big stainless steel tanks?
That's where it goes from sugar water to beer.
And then it goes either to bottles or kegs after that? And
absolutely.
And then out to the public. How long do you have to hold on to this beer before it gets released?
Well, the bottled beer goes into the bottle completely flat. We'll bottle condition, so we add a little bit of sugar, make sure we have a nice, fresh, viable yeast, and it'll age for 3 to 4 weeks.
And it actually carbonates in the bottle then?
Yeah, kind of like
champagne.
Exactly, exactly. Cool. Our kegs, to risk not over-carbonating kegs, we will force carbonate that, so inject CO2 into the beer, and those are ready to go out the next day.
Well, this is getting me kind of hungry. I don't know about you guys, but let's match a pizza to his beer, and then we'll get you to match a beer to our pizza. Great.